All right. Welcome to Zachary Carter TV. The David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade pay-per-view event. It was a great event, and that's what we're going to be discussing. I got a lot of thoughts, my reaction, my breakdown on all of the fight. So let's begin. Let's start off with the main event. Now, this fight was supposed to be a clash of style, which it was, but Mike Tyson gave Benavidez the moniker, the Mexican Monster, and he proved that moniker was correct. David Benavidez is a Mexican monster, that's for sure. His offense was just spectacular. But not only was his offense spectacular, he showed pretty good defense against Andrade. Andrade fought well. He really did. He fought well for the first 3 rounds. I believe he won the first 3 rounds. He was doing very well. He was being very aggressive. He didn't want to be on the receiving end of Benavidez onslaught. So he had a plan to take the fight to Benavidez. And, you know, I was saying if he could keep up the pace, if he could keep it up, then it was a pretty good plan. However, Benavidez eventually caught up with him and was able to drop him in the 4th round. One of the biggest things that I got from the fight is just how Benavidez isn't just an offensive machine. He's a very good athlete. David Benavidez is a very good athlete. He has, we all know he has exceptional hand speeds because he loves to rattle off those combinations, those highlight reel combinations. But he has good footwork. He has good feet. I mean, he could pop on it off the line, and he really is a very good athlete. I'm from Chicago, and I love Michael Jordan, and he's the greatest basketball player. But Michael Jordan was 6'6". Now, just think if Michael Jordan was 6'2", would he be Michael Jordan, or would he simply be a very good basketball player? Your physical attributes, it matters. Your physical attributes matters. And David Benavidez, he's a huge man. He's a big dude for the 165-pound weight class. He uses his size to his advantage, and which he should. You supposed to use your physical God-given abilities, your God-given talent to your advantage. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do it. And Benavidez does that very well. Benavidez, what really struck me is those long arms of his. Gosh, dog, they are so long. So he could shoot out his jab for such long distance. But what really gets me is that he could shoot out his lead right hand at a distance that you just don't expect. He just shoots off that lead right hand. And against a lefty like Andrade, the lead right hand is kryptonite. And it's sure enough, Benavidez's right hand was Andrade's kryptonite that night. And it took him out. A couple of thoughts. Benavidez is sneaky. He's sneaky good. Generally, you set up your right hand, your power hand, if you're an orthodox fighter, with your jab. You use your jab to set up your power hand. But what Benavidez does is he sets misdirections up, and it's very subtle because he was able to shoot out that lead right hand so quick, so unexpectedly that I had to really look at him. Like that lead right hand was coming out just like that jab. So it was very confusing, to Andrade because is it a jab or is it a lead right hand? So what Benavidez does is very subtle. The first 3% of his movement, it looks like a jab, but is actually a disguise for the lead right hand. I believe that's why his lead right hand is so effective. He makes the first 3 to 5% of his body motion looks exactly the same. So what I'm saying is the first 3 to 5% of his motion of his jab and the motion of his lead right hands looks the same. So that lead right hand comes out just as poppy and as quick as the jab, and it just totally throws off any opponent that Benavidez would have. You couple that with the fact that Benavidez is so long, and he has so much range with both of his jab and his lead right hand. It's it's just such an advantage. It's just really hard to deal with. It really is. And I tell you what, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I'm not sure if Canelo's going to take that fight. Canelo might just look at Benavidez and say that's just too much. I think I'll go in another direction and make just as much money somewhere else for an easier fight. I hate to say it, but Benavidez is a lot to handle, and I don't know if Canelo would want to take up that challenge. Benavidez. A lot of people say he's there to be hit. He's easy to be hit, but Benavidez has good defense. He has a good peekaboo style defense, and he has good foot movement. He'll pop out off the line. He's just not going to stand there like his brother and just stay on the line and take punches. David could slide backwards off the line and avoid punches using his feet and his footwork, and he'll cover up. He won't slip as much, because he's tall, so he's not going to really rely on his head movement for defense, but he'll use his feet and blocking for defense, and it's fairly effective. It's a good counterpuncher, but Benavidez' offense is his main strength because, again, you use your physical gifts, and his arms are so long, and he can hit you from all types of angles from a range where you just normally would not expect. So it's really tough. Benavidez is such a tough matchup. It really is. Getting back to the fight itself, like I say, the first 3 rounds, Andrade, he did fairly well. Andrade is a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup himself. I could see why he was being avoided because he's extremely awkward. He's a big dude himself. He's big, tall, southpaw who's super awkward. I mean, he is super awkward. Andrade doesn't run like, he's a mover, but he doesn't necessarily run. He uses his footwork to circle, to glide off the line in a re-attack. So he's not really a runner, but he is a mover. And the way he moves, he's so awkward. He crouches, and he's a southpaw, and it's just weird. It really is weird. It took Benavidez about 3.5 rounds to kind of get a feel. So even though Andrade lost the fight, I'm not sure if this is going to change the way people think about him as far as are they going to step up and fight him. Andrade is 35 years old, and I don't believe he's in his physical prime. I think he's close to it, but he's on a down slope of his career. So maybe these younger super middleweight would now take on the challenge of fighting Andrade. I believe what his name? David Morrell. I believe he'll fight anybody. So that would be a good fight. That'd be a really good fight. Caleb Plant versus Andrade. I would like to see that. I think that would be a good fight that they could set up. Andrade, he did good. It's not that Andrade didn't perform. It was the exceptional ability of Benavidez. Benavidez is exceptional. He is a great fighter for all combat athletes, not just boxers, but for combat athletes. There's what they call the triad of performance. I didn't make this up. I got it from a gentleman named Zach T-Lander, and it makes a lot of sense. I like the concept of the triad of performance. Hope I'm saying it right. I might not be saying it right, but I'll give you the gist of what the triad of performance is. So you have the triad, which is a triangle, essentially, and you have 3 sides of the triangle. Okay, so on one side of the triangle, you have your physiology, your strength, your height, your endurance, your chin. Do you have a chin? Your power, hand speed, foot speed, reaction time, everything that goes into your physical being, your physical talent, your physical self. And that plays a huge role. If you give it a range from, let's say, 1 to 5, 5 being the max, 1 being the lowest. And we're talking about relative because not absolute. So relative and absolute is different. David Benavidez relative to his weight class is huge. Now, is David compared to a heavyweight fighter huge? No, he's not huge. A person like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is is huge on an absolute scale. No matter who he's compared with, he's huge, even relative to other heavyweights. Tyson Fury is man, a huge man relative to other heavyweight, and absolute because he's the biggest man out there. Again, getting back to the triad of performance and relative to his weight class, David Benavidez is huge. He's a huge man, and so I give him a 5 as far as his physicality, his physical ability. Yeah, he has a lot of great physical attributes. He keeps coming. He looks like he has a great gas tank. He's big, he's rangy, he fast hands, pretty good feet, great size, endurance. I mean, he's a 5-tool player, taking a saying from baseball, David Benavidez is a 5-tool player. That's one side of the triangle. The second side of the triangle is what they call specificity, your skills, your technique and your skills. So, Mayweather says skills pay the bills, and that's true. 1 through 5, you can't deny Benavidez punching ability. His ability to rattle out great combinations. He's able to punch from all types of angles. Couple that with his physical ability. Those punches can come from all types of angles and from a range that most people can't pull those punches off from. That's crazy to handle. I mean, that's just crazy to handle. Just from those two sides of the triangle alone, and at a high. So I would say his skills ability is a 4 or a 5. So you have two maximum scores on 2 of the 3 sides of the triangle, and you're a damn good fighter. You're a damn good fighter. And this performance against Andrade is solidified himself as a dominant performer. That's 2 sides of the triangle of the performance triad. So the last side of the performance triad is the most underrated side. It's the side that most people don't particularly think about because it's harder to see. It's harder to put a score on it, and if you're not looking for it, you might not see. But that's the psychology, where your head is at. You don't see it oftentimes because your psychology. It's a part your character. Are you showing up to the gym every day? Do you have discipline? I mean, this is something that it's not necessarily obvious for the layperson to see. I mean, is your discipline correct? Are you going to get your butt up at 5 in the morning in the snow or in the rain when it's cold or when it's hot and get your butt up and do your road work? Are you going to show up? Are you going to show up in the gym every day? Are you going to be on time? Thanksgiving, are you going to indulge in that great Thanksgiving food, or are you going to be disciplined? I mean, that's character. That's your psychology. Look at somebody like a Bernard Hopkins, who lived a very disciplined lifestyle. Most people say Bernard Hopkins, his physical ability didn't blow anybody away. No, nobody said Bernard Hopkins' physical ability blew anybody away. I'm sure, yeah, Bernard Hopkins had really good physical ability, but it didn't blow anybody away. It wasn't low by any stretch, but it wasn't a Roy Jones Jr. type of physical ability. You understand what I'm saying? But his psychology give him that score of a 5, of a max. He was very disciplined, and that discipline carried him in having a great career at an advanced age. He took care of his body like a well-tuned race car. Like, he understood what he needed to do to be a great fighter, and he had the discipline and the psychology and the mental focus to make sure that he was a great fighter. He performed, and he had high levels of skill. So on those 2 sides of the triangle, he had very high scores, and on the physical ability, he had, I would say, above average. Now, if you have, great scores on all 3 sides of the triangle, then as a combat athlete, you're probably going to be a great fighter, an elite fighter. David Benavidez is an elite fighter. David Benavidez is on the top of the food chain. He is elite. He is an elite fighter because on all 3 sides of the performance triad, he has a high score. His physical attributes are through the roof. It is at a max score. He has great skills. Is at a, either at a max score or near max score. And you couple his great skills with his physical attributes, it's rough. Now, David Benavidez, he is driven. You could tell just by how his conversation, the way he talks, how he acts, how he trains. So he has a max score on his psychology. So on the triad of performance, David Benavidez is an elite fighter. I think a lot of people recognize this. A lot of people that don't want to fight him because they understand he has no weaknesses as far as his performance is concerned. I mean, you have to be an elite fighter to beat this man. I say a Demetrius Andrade is an elite fighter. Demetrius Andrade is an elite fighter, but he just is not as great as Benavidez. It took an elite fighter to beat another elite fighter. David Benavidez is an elite fighter. If you look at the triad with Demetrius Andrade, okay? If David Benavidez physical side of the triad is a 5, I would give Andrade a 4. And like I say, this is relative. Okay? I would give him a 4. If you look at skill-wise, Benavidez is a 5. I would give Andrade a 5, skill-wise. Okay? And if you look at the psychology-wise, I would give Benavidez a 5 and Andrade a 4. Okay? So 2 4s and a 5 on the triad of performance is an elite fighter that would beat pretty much everyone. But Benavidez have 3 5s on my scale. 3 5s beat 2 4s and a 5. So Andrade is a great fighter. I still believe that. I have to think about that, but I'm just going to say I favorite Andrade over Plant. But I have the right to change my mind. What about against the current Charlo? Would I favorite Charlo over Andrade? That'd be a good fight. Charlo impressed me, and we're gonna talk about that next. Charlo can box. He really can, but I believe Andrade is so awkward that I believe I would favor Andrade over Charlo. Again, I reserve the right to change my mind. David Benavidez is an amazing fighter. The Mexican Monster is an appropriate moniker for Benavidez. He's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how you would stop him. Would I favorite? No, I would definitely favor not Canelo. I would definitely favor David Benavidez over Canelo, and I really like Canelo. I really like how he fights. Canelo does have good power, but I don't believe he has enough power to stop Benavidez. I would favor Benavidez to beat Canelo. I think Canelo can hold up. Canelo has a good chin. I believe he's very stout. Man, that would be a big fight. That would be such a big fight. Canelo versus Benavidez. That would be a record-breaking fight. They go ahead and make that fight. Canelo needs to go ahead and make that fight because, that would be a record-breaking fight. I paid for the Benavidez Andrade fight. I sure as heck would pay good money for the Canelo Benavidez fight, and everybody else would too. So, Canelo, you need to go ahead and step up, take that fight, win, lose, or draw. You got to do it for the good of boxing. You need to do it for the good of boxing, for the good of the sport. Canelo, you have to give back to the sport. I know it's easier said than done. You talk about getting into the ring with literally, they call a person a monster. So I understand, but the sport has gave so much to you. You have to give back to the sport. David Benavidez was just an amazing performance. A lot of people say Benavidez is flat foot. He don't have any defense, but he he does have good defense. He showed really good defense. His defense was very sound. Just one of the reasons going back to the fight why Benavidez is so good is I believe he's a master of deception. What I mean about that master of deception, I believe he has the ability to disguise which punch is coming, or he has a subtle ability to make you think one punch is coming, but then all of a sudden a totally different punch is coming and you're caught by surprise. Really, he has that subtle ability, and that's a subtle ability that's not easily, you can't easily see it in a fight. It just stunned me when I was watching his fight against Andrade. It's just how effective his lead right hand was coming out, and just how quick and fast his lead right hand shot out. And it shot out. He was using his lead right hands very similar as if he was throwing a jab. And I started paying attention, and it's a subtle ability. The first 5% of his body movement, he shows that first 5%. He makes you look like it's a jab, and then he flick the right hand, and it just catches his opponents off guard. And I believe he could do that with his hooks and his uppercuts, and I believe that's why he was able to catch Andrade in the 4th round with that devastating right hand. It was a devastating right hand because Benavidez has a great ability to deceive his opponent and to disguise what punches is coming. And that's a hell of an ability when you got the size and the physical attributes of a David Benavidez. So he's a problem. David Benavidez is a problem. He's a problem. His talent is undeniable. You know, he's beating up everyone. Let's do it, Canelo. Let's do it.